everybody, Ben here from the Bonehead podcast, and welcome to One Page Wednesdays. So, I have been loving One Page rules. I love their minis, I love the rules. So every Wednesday I'm going to drop a little video showing what I'm working on. It may be OPR minis, it may be other minis I'm using for One Page rules. But I am absolutely loving this part of my hobby at the moment, and I thought if I do a little video each week, it's going to help me share it with you guys. Now, I have been waiting for this video for a long time. One Page rules have been working on their version of sci-fi orcs, and they've finally dropped. So these are not the orcs you will be familiar with. When you think of space orcs, this is not them. This is not the Games Workshop troll brutish orcs. This is not the Blood Bowl just kind of thick bruiser orc. This is kind of more akin to your just the human style orc. Think the new kind of D&D stuff. Think the guy from Bright with Will Smith. Now, OPR have had some delays on production, so they've been waiting. They did a great job though. They shared the first images of these orcs and the feedback was not brilliant. So they went back, they made delays because they wanted to work on them and make them good. And they made them real good indeed. So let's give a bit of a zoom in here if we can, because this is some of the orc release. Now, not everything that they are planning to release is out just yet, but they've dropped two primary units, which are the infantry and the shamans, which are pretty cool. So this month they are dropping also some bike riders and I think an orc hero, and oh god, the cool thing they do every month is drop like a sci-fi release as well. So there's like an RPG release. So there's going to be an orc character for RPG as well. So let's have a quick look at their release so far this month. So you've seen some zippy pictures there up on the screen. This is the way the orcs look. Now, they started off with hair and stuff like that, and it added a lot of character to them, but everyone was a bit, not everyone, there was a lot of feedback about it saying these don't really look like orcs, these look too much like humans. So this is the core model of the orc. It's less facially gigantic than the Games Workshop one. The proportions are more realistic, but they still look terrifying. They still look like warriors. It looks like a warrior race, which is exactly what you want from orcs. So this release of this unit in particular has got two presets. You've got pistols and hand weapons, and there's a mix of different hand weapons. I'm not sure if there's a mix of different pistols right now, but I mean, you don't really need them for the roster, but the kind of motif that they've gone for here is this kind of warrior aspect, but they've got a little bit of like the kind of classic tribal imagery that they've gone with. Like this, you've got skulls and things. Like think orc tribes and orc clans. They've gone with that thing, and they've done this little thing where they've added the zigzag patterns, and like they've done a cool thing here where you've got extra texture. You've got little horns on their arms, you've got little zigzags on their armor, you've got little crossbits, you've got little buckles and things. Now, I love this because so far their models have taken like speed paint stuff like that really quickly, and it means that you're able to kind of pick out the detail, and that's exactly what I want. So they've dropped the pistol guys, and then they dropped a bunch of, we're going to come back to some of these ones, gun guys as well. So you've got the carbines, you've got like orc bolters basically, and you've got some special weapons mixed in there as well. Oh, come on, where's the shoulder mounted rocket launcher, which I think is just absolutely awesome. That's a plasma gun. There's your rocket launcher. Proper Arnie, which is wicked. So the basic orcs are what they call Bonehead, which is this, right? They've got the tusks, they've got the pointy ears, and they've got bald heads. They've added some scars and stuff to add a bit of texture to the face, but they've not gone too much on that. It looks halfway between a 40k orc and a human. And that's actually kind of what they want to be in OPR, right? You've got that kind of troll marauder vibe mixed in with the fact that they're actually civilized enough to be able to trade and build things. But the original aspect that OPR were going for was stuff like this, where you've got extra sort of bandanas and hats and facial hair and head hair. Where they went, that's I think where it went, it got a bit controversial at first, because people looked at this and they're like, these just look like big humans. But they've done a couple of these sculpts now where you've got like the special forces beard on an orc, which I think is really interesting. They've got female versions with female hair. You've got mad human features and kind of goggles and cornrows and stuff. there's a lot of alternate sculpts in here. So I am not about this vibe. It doesn't work for me. This really does. In fact, this is one of the models that I have got to show off because I could not wait. This dropped last night and I chucked them straight on the printer. Yeah, there's the machine gun guy as well, because I wanted to get these done and out as ready as possible, because next week we're going to be launching our expansion campaign for One Page Rules. We've got a few local players brewing up, and I've got a little easy way to get you to a full game in 6 months, and we're going to be playing it on the channel. Basically every month you'll see me build up a little force, you'll hear from the other guys who are also in our, you know, the little expansion campaign, and we're going to try and play a game every month so you can see the forces expand, and I want everyone to join in. But we'll talk about that on next week's One Page Wednesday. Right, they've also dropped the Shaman. So if you're a 40k orc boy, this is what, a weird knob? Don't know. Basically it's an orc shaman, and you've got 4 different versions. You've got bald-headed orc, right? You've got tribal mask orc, which kind of goes back to the 40k savage orc shaman, where he's got like the wooden mask. Love that, and that is another model that I could not wait to print. And then you've got a male one with extra head stuff, and you've got a female version as well. So one thing that One Page Rules does really well for their sculpts is they give you loads of alternates, so you can find one that you really like and you go with that. Now I printed out these 2 because I couldn't help myself. So they are all pre-supported, and they've got, I think, a couple of bits left to add to this. And they've got the truck coming this month as well. They've got the bikes coming this month as well. And they've got the champion coming this month as well. But let's have a look, more importantly, at the prints, because that is what we're here for. So they dropped last night. I quickly put a plate on before I went to bed. Printed these on the Saturn II with 0.04 layer lines, standard setting, Elegoo 2.0 resin. Just the standard stuff I use, as it works really well for me. Let's have a look at some minis then. Let's hide that and let's bring up this. So where's my center point? Here we go. Okay, let's start having a look at some of the prints. Let's take the infantry with swords and combat weapons first. Now it's really interesting because when you come to the orcs in OPR, the models scream soldiers, but the rules scream brawlers. So they are still a combat heavy roster, but there are going to be some changes to the OPR army list as these guys get updated. But they've all got a rule that's bad shot, basically. That just means they can't hit on anything but a roll of a 5 or 6. So they're not the best shooting unit, but they also have a special ability you can get hold of called Shooty, which means you can score extra hits when you roll 6s and stuff like that. So I got these done quick. Okay, we printed them, I cleaned them up, but obviously there's still a little bit of supports that you'll see everywhere. Now, I used the pre-supported versions of this from One Page Rules. The pre-supported versions are, for the most part, brilliant. They will not fail. They will be very successful. But you do end up with lots of little bits like this. But, I mean, when you contemplate the prospect of building this, for example, if it was a plastic kit, do you know what? It's a trade-off. It's a really good trade-off. Now, I'm priming these white because I'll be using Grim Black to kind of set the base coat for all of these models. But there we go. We have a orc with a pistol and a sword, and we've got an orc here with a sword, well, a dagger, I guess, and some kind of special weapon. I'm not actually sure what that is. I probably should have checked, but it's a very cool model. Now, one thing One Page Rules have said is that their carbines, their rifles and stuff like that, they're happy with them using with one hand, because the idea is that orcs are burly, they're chunky, and they can use the guns without actually having to give up the ability to use combat weapons as well. It's kind of an important element of how they play. They all have kind of like 2 attacks in combat and stuff like that, so it works out really well for them. Yeah, see, I've got my little screwdriver here ready to clear off some supports as we go, because I have just primed these as well. So this is a super claw, I believe. This is one of the combat weapons, the combat upgrades, and basically it's like a lightning fist. Now, when it comes to the combat weapons for the orcs, they're not as big and as chunky as I was kind of hoping, because this should be a power claw, right? If you think 40k power claw, you think big pincer replacing their hand. They've gone with Wolverine claws. I mean, it's really not the end of the world. When it comes to having your standard units of boys, you're going to have a couple because they're useful for grabbing objectives. So actually, it's different enough for them to stand out. It's not as super like beefy as I was kind of hoping, but you're only going to have a couple in the unit, so it really doesn't matter. As long as like the bigger units get bigger combat weapons to really show off the fact that they are combat oriented, I'll be very happy with that. So we've had a look at a couple of the stabby chaps. Let's have a look at the machine gun guys. Now, when it comes to orcs in OPR, the fact they're a bad shot and they can only hit on a 5+ means that carbines are interesting. So they're range 18 with 2 shots. So it's an interesting one. They're probably built better to charge into melee, but I like my guns when it comes to sci-fi games. So I'm going to have a unit of 1 with carbines and some special weapons, and a unit of melee guys as well who are going to run forward and just get into combat. So we've got 2 machine guns, we've got a couple of special weapons here as well, including the banner bearer, because I love nothing more than a sci-fi banner because it's well unnecessary and that makes me filled with joy. Okay, so this is one of the very cool bits here. So the style they've gone, you do have that kind of exaggerated, burly, bolted together aspect of some of the weapons. Most of it is kind of pretty reasonable tech, but they've done a really good job of mixing in kind of like old school stuff, like a drum barrel there, the fact that his vest is all ripped as well. It's a good mix mash. So really cool, that really big machine gun, really happy with that. We've got a flame dude here as well. I assume that's a flamer. Yeah, it looks like a flamer, which is very useful because they are reliable in this game, which means they hit on a 2+, and a great alt sculpt. There's like 40 models in just one of these units. Now these are all combined, so they're all just single prints, which makes me outrageously happy. Here's the banner bearer. I love this. This is just, I think, an upgrade for your standard unit. I mean, banners in sci-fi just make me so happy. He is getting painted, and that is going to be really useful for me to kind of show off the color scheme of my orcs, which is going to be kind of grim black, so like a dark gray with a dusty dry brush, and then they're going to have blue as a pop color as well. So we've got a couple models left to show off. We've got the rocket launcher boy, who is just awesome. Now the rocket launcher in the game is currently not as good as this model looks. I think it's range 18, it's got 1 shot, which obviously with these guys is hitting on a 5, but it's deadly 3, which means it does 3 wounds if it hits, and yeah, I think it's AP2 or something. But it's just the best model. It's just the best model in this whole release. It's so cool. They've done a very good job. They've sneaked a couple of pictures of like their mechs and stuff, which are looking really cool too. So obviously not cleaned up all the prints yet, all the supports yet, but this is their shaman, and they've done another really good job here of mixing kind of, not just kind of that weird fantasy look, the kind of which I think they're going for with this whole like tribal aspect. They look like fantasy orcs, but they've got tech as well, and I think that's a really cool place to go. I love the mask mixed with all these cables and stuff, because this is their psyker, this is like their wizard. And is it magic? Is it tech? It doesn't matter, which is very awesome. Now before we wrap up, we're going to do a size comparison. So this is an HDF commander, or it could be a sergeant, I don't know, for one of the special forces. This is the human release from OPR from last month, the month before. I want to show off the kind of size that you're looking at. Both these guys have got 32s. This is a hero for my humans, so he gets a bigger base size. But let's do the top-down profile. So you can see the orc compared to the HDF is about the same size. Now these are just stormtroopers. These are like the elites. So mass-wise, the orc absolutely has it. From the top, from the side, they have a much bigger figure without actually being too tall to be the point that it's a bit of a concern. So I like that. But I've also got a regular size trooper on a 25mm base as well, because I just wanted to kind of show off the size-wise. I don't think you'd want to put the orcs on 25s. They might fit on 25s, but there's just something unnatural about orcs being on such a small base. That said, I actually think all of these models would fit on 25s if you wanted to. I'm not going to, because that's not what orcs should be in my mind, but that's my HDF trooper against an orc. So scale wise, we don't have to muck about. I think it's perfect. If you are using these as Games Workshop proxies, actually you might want to scale these guys up a bit to add to the mass, but OPR have gone a very different way, a very different route when it comes to the style. So if you're trying to get proxies for 40k, you may want to go a different way anyway, but for OPR, the scale is absolutely perfect. All right, there we have it. One Page Wednesday wrapped up. Very quick look at some of the new Orc units from OPR. So my next plan is to put together a skirmish force for them, which I will probably detail in next week's episode, and I'm going to get started on painting. So every Wednesday I'm going to do a little update. It might be a feature about a different unit, a different part of different game probably, like so we'll bounce between fantasy and sci-fi, and then I'll be doing some hobby bits as well. So as I get them painted, I'll show them off as well, because what I want to do is kind of follow the OPR releases, add a bit to my army every month and get it to the table and play a game. But for now, I'm going to wrap up. We'll be back soon with more gaming content. Happy printing.